This is the magicwordpodcast.com.
We're now getting ready for the full day 3, the final day of the Magifest 2023, and we're at breakfast over here at, I don't know, it's Inner Urban Deli or whatever. It's very nice. We just had some coffee and everything, and so we're just relaxing, and I thought I would talk with a couple people just to kind of recap a little bit of things that happened yesterday afternoon. For those of you who were following us for the last couple of days, we left off last evening after about an hour and 10 minutes of content. I wanted not to go on too much further, but to talk about some of the shows that went on last evening. But I've got with me now right now one of the dealers, and that's Charlie Randall. Hey there, Charlie.
Hey, Scott. How's it going?
Fantastic. Thank you very much for asking. And my good buddy also, we don't see very often, that's Charles Green III, who's one of the talent. Hey, Charles.
Hey, good morning, Scott.
And so the shows yesterday, where I kind of left off on the podcast, yesterday afternoon, I was briefly mentioning that they were having this lady who was talking about the confidence men. Did you hear that talk?
I did not hear that talk.
Okay. I heard part of that. Very good. It's very interesting about an escape during World War I from a POW camp where these two guys apparently had used a Ouija board, and they kind of freaked out their captors, I guess, to think, okay, we don't want these guys and ghosts follow them, and so anyhow, that was very, they might even make a movie out of it, but anyhow, after that, they had just a general session. They had some different people who were, I think before that, actually, who were doing some different tricks and things. Now, there was a fellow, I forgot, from the day before that you had mentioned, who did some video. What was that?
Matt Pritchard?
Matt Pritchard?
Yes.
He did these videos. Which are kind of Richard Wiseman-like type things, where you what you see, I mean, is actual the view, but it's a camera view, so it's like a one-eyed view, so it's very angly.
Very two-dimensional.
It's very angly, yeah. So it's very angly, but these things just look impossible. He takes advantage of the angles. Even one of them is a water thing, where he takes advantage of the fact that when you look through a glass of water, you're not actually seeing the sides. And he did this David Copperfield type illusion.
Really?
It was really good. With the little Lego David Copperfield. Really well done. It was great fun. So it was a great talk. And he has a website. I want to say it's Science Magic. I'm probably getting that wrong. But you might be able to look it up. Maybe Matt Pritchard, something like that. I think he's English. But no, very good talk. Very good talk.
And then yesterday afternoon, they had, what was it that happened yesterday afternoon? It was about 5:30, so we don't have our things. You happen to have it. I remember last night that we did have. Oh, there you go. So what happened last evening?
Oh, Lance Burton.
Oh, there's Lance Burton. That was right. So we had the panel discussion.
Then after that David Gerard.
We're going to talk about that. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
But did you stick around? Did you hear the Lance Burton?
I did. It was excellent.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about that.
Well,
I've been talking enough. You talk.
Well, no, I think one of the things that was most amazing was to see the journey that he was on, and the thing that I took away was no one can be perfect immediately. You can't write your best material in a day or show or a week. And the example that he gave was the ducks, how an accident happened where the duck fell off and they had to pick up the duck, and they learned these things over show after show about how to actually make the ducks follow a certain routine, that after a while the ducks knew the routine and he just had to gesture.
But you wouldn't know that until you actually get into it and start doing it.
Exactly. You can't know unless you make those failures, and people want to be perfect immediately. They want to have a great show immediately. And so I took much away from that, and then the fact that he stated you really can't be good unless you do 1,000 shows.
Right.
And some things there's like the Malcolm Gladwell thing, if you need to work like 100,000, 10,000 hours. Well, how does that translate to a performer? So that's a good barometer, 1,000 shows. So, if you think you can be good in a month or 2 months, well, maybe depending on how many shows you do, but you need to put in 1,000 shows and let that be your barometer. And
that was what he had done before he was on Johnny Carson. He said, I'd done 1,000 shows before I'd actually been on my first Johnny Carson.
Yes. And the thing is, in talking to another performer, Alex Hilsche, great street performer, is now transitioning into theater. She said on a podcast, everyone can be good, but it takes persistence. And in my life, I found out I can do almost anything, but I can't do it if I don't try, and if I don't keep at it and keep at it and keep at it and keep at it. Because that's really what makes the difference. People stop halfway and they fail and they go, it can't be done. And someone else goes further, puts in more time, and they did, and it's like, I wonder what happened. So persistence is really a key to success.
And you never know, it might just be that next one in which you discover the light bulb.
Oh, exactly. I mean, someone just sent me a note about it, like, well, how do you become a magician? How do you do X? And the advice I give to someone is like, okay, you want to be a corporate magician. Go get business cards that say corporate magician and then your name and your contact information. Start handing them out until someone says, oh, this is what you do? You say yes, and then you better be prepared. You do the show. And that's how it is. But unless you keep handing out cards, you don't know which one's going to click.
Yeah.
Or when you're going to make that connection, you won't get there.
Well, that goes back to when you and I were in Houston and you were doing all those restaurants. You were working like 9 restaurants a week. You were like the guy in the world, I think, working more than 8 restaurants.
I'm going to clarify here. It was 10 restaurants a week in 7 days. It was crazy. But I made tons and tons of contacts.
Well, that was my whole point. You were handing out cards because your goal, I recall, was to be a trade show guy.
Right.
And
right.
So you were handing out cards until that happened.
Well, when I first started, I was the restaurant magician. That led to a lot of corporate parties because I was just handing out cards all the time. But then I did transition. I said, corporate magician on my cards. And then, because Houston being the 4th largest city in the United States, ran into a lot of corporate circles, and someone said, oh, you do trade shows? Yes, I can. Not yes, I do, but yes, I can.
Yeah.
Someone hired me, and Pyramid Cement for the World of Concrete was my first client, and then I kept going, and, the rest, they say, is history.
Yeah.
But you got to start small with a declaration of, here is who I am. And you can't be a generalist. Once again, we go back to the thing of business cards that have like 15 things that you do. No one wants that. They want specification.
Same thing like with websites. Of course, now, back then we were business cards, but now you can have a page for each thing you do. Charlie, you were going to say?
So how many hours of podcasting do you have now?
I would say probably 1,500 hours.
So you got another 8,500 to go.
Why am I talking to you?
Because I'm your roommate.
Well, Bill Goldman was another guy who was an example. As I recall, that you'll tell that story.
Which one?
About the fact. That's right. About Bill Goldman getting his first trade show job.
I don't remember that.
As I recall that he was like at a restaurant, much like you, and the guy said, "Hey, do you do trade shows?" He said, "Absolutely." And he thought, "What's a trade show?" Later,
Well, that's true. And the trade, especially for a trade show, it's not like any other thing where most people in the world have never been to a trade show. If you're a magician, you may have never been to a trade show. And it's a whole different animal. It's a corporate, in some sense, it's like a corporate circus. It's this thing that travels around the world in different places. It unpacks
corporate
for 3
circus,
days.
wow. Huh.
Yeah, that's how I describe it. It unpacks for 3 days. It's the show. And then it packs up in a box and they send it all off and put it away.
Yeah.
It's an amazing world. I loved it. And to get into that, until you do your first one, you're actually on the floor. You have no idea what it's like. When people are walking by, there's sessions, you've got the client to please, there's nonstop, there's noise, there's trucks running by.
And a lot of competition for those eyeballs to stop at their other booths.
A lot of competition, especially now, especially with digital stuff. It wasn't like this before. So it's really, really difficult. And you need, like, your first trade show that you ever do is never going to be as good as the 1,000th one that you do. And I always tell, in my experience, the show that I do for my client on day one, when I get into a show, especially if it's a new client, on day one, it's good enough to make them happy. But when I get to day 3, it's a killer show. Because I've done it for 3 days in a row, and I've done maybe a couple hundred shows over the 3 or 4 days.
Well, that's kind of like a restaurant, wherever you're finally honing and tuning a particular trick because you're doing table to table, or back when we were at the Magic Island, that we would do several shows a night, and you're doing them back to back, all the time. So you really get to fine-tune your act.
Yeah, you have to have that flight time. It's the only way to get good. You can't be in front of a mirror. You can't be on YouTube. You can't be, just in your little practice closet.
That's true.
You got to be live and in front of an audience.
So what about David Gerard? Let's talk a little bit about that. So tell me what you thought about the show last night.
It was excellent. Kind of a minimalism type thing, a little magic in it. But no, it was very good. With the Q&A thing that was excellent. And
the energy he had was what excited me.
Yeah, and he had great presentation, great pattern, great lines.
But it wasn't just the scripting. It was his ability to speak extemporaneously with the audience, come up with all these different lines and also inside things. Apparently Andy or Josh Jay, when he was introducing, said he saw him at Apple, I think, or something, and the way he was interacting with the audience was great. But I'm sure it was different with us, with the magicians, because he had some inside things.
He did have a few inside comments where he would talk about, like, almost alluding to the method or something or whatever.
But they had the first row with the lay
people, yeah, and those were excellent, because those people, you could tell, were just
genuinely,
yeah, and they were flabbergasted. It's like, the guy's reading minds, obviously reading minds. No, he does the same. No, he doesn't do the same thing. But we're thinking, hey, we've seen things like this. But those folks, man, they were just, how could he know that? How could he know my birthday? All that kind of stuff and all. So yeah, it was very good.
And that's one of the things about at this conference, they have real people in the audience, and so as a performer looking at it, you get an appreciation of the difference. Because we get jaded, we forget how strong of a reaction is that. And before I did a session, I just stood out front, and there was a couple rows there and some kids, and I did some magic, and there was a woman there who exclaimed when I did something. It was like an ambitious card, and I realized she doesn't see magic. This is really real for her, and this is the power of live magic. It's so strong, and we forget.
It was. Now, his was the late show that was after, I say late, that was, went on until about 11 o'clock, after the Lance Burton thing. And then after that was Mark Calabrese, I believe.
Yeah, the bar magic. I didn't see it. It was so crowded that I
did not stay up.
Okay, I was kind of the same way.
Yeah.
But he had done a lecture earlier in the day, and he's going to be having a workshop then tomorrow on Sunday, as is Shudo Gawa then as well. And there was another thing, too. I believe that Chris Ramsey was doing a thing called Flash.
I didn't see that.
Oh, Flash and you lose.
Yes.
Yeah. I didn't see that either.
As I understand that's a YouTube channel that he has as well.
Okay.
But I don't know. We're old guys. But I say that because
what is this YouTube? What means this YouTube thing?
He's talking about.
Is that capital U?
You. Anyhow, he apparently has something in which that. Yeah, if you flash, then they'd ring a bell or something, that you're out, basically. And then also, I thought there was somebody doing late night. They had a bar set up in the session. Oh, that was where Mark was working? Okay, that was where Calabrese things was, so it was at the bar. But the other thing, I don't know where Chris Ramsey was. I think he's going to do it again tonight, I believe. Maybe.
How about the Chris Ramsey thing?
That was what I'm saying. It was a Chris Ramsey flash.
Oh, Chris Ramsey was a flash. Okay, I'm sorry. Yes.
Mark Calabrese was doing just the bar close-up card magic.
No, yeah, I didn't know that, yeah.
So anyhow, that kind of wraps up yesterday. We got a lot of stuff then planned for today, and I think our first thing out of the chute is going to be Mark James, who's going to be lecturing about the show that he did on opening night on Thursday night, which is going to be great. So thank you guys very much. It's good chatting with you. Thank you, Charles.
Thank you very much, Scott.
And thank you, Charlie.
Thank you, Scott.
And so we will talk to some more people back at the hotel here shortly. Scotty out. We're about ready to have a few things happen at 10 o'clock. The dealers are just now opening, and then Mark James will be starting at 10:30. But I thought I'd also get a little bit of insight from another one of the registrants and a friend of the Magic Word, and I really love this guy, and I know you do too, Matthew Neely. Hey, Matthew.
Hey, Scott. How you doing?
Fantastic. Good to always see you. What have you enjoyed most? I mean, we're coming into the final day here, but so far, what's been like on your top?
I mean, so that's a challenge because Magifest is unlike any other convention, from the talent that Josh and Andy bring in, but to the sessioning and jamming that happens afterwards and between sessions, and so you can't replace that. So last night, a bunch of us just got together and hung out. We actually didn't do any magic. We just ended up playing some board games, and so
really,
yeah, that was a lot of fun. Billy Hesh from the IBM and several of the Vanishing Ink guys got together, and we just played games. But as far as the actual schedule and lineup, thus far I have really enjoyed Morton Christensen's lecture yesterday on comedy magic and just how he approaches things, and it's so interesting to see just not only the different perspectives, but of course he's a FISM award winner, right? So he knows his stuff, and it's been very, very good. Looking forward to everything. But I tell you what, yesterday's standout for me was the session, where they have, people who have, 15 to 45 minutes to talk about different things. And Josh and Andy spend a lot of time investing in our youth, and one of the things they invest in is a school here in the Columbus area that has developmental disabilities, and those kids work all year learning magic and social skills that come from magic, and they come every year and do something. And they did this wonderful routine about a barkery, so a bakery for dogs, and it was a mentalism effect, and it was just phenomenal. So that was a highlight. And then they always try to bring in a non-magic person that is tangentially related. So yesterday they had an author who had written a New York Times best-selling book on a couple of individuals who had escaped from a POW camp in World War I, and how they had used magic or magic principles to facilitate that escape. And that was just really kind of cool to hear about that. So, and tonight we've got a big show, big gala show coming up, and that's always great, is the big gala shows.
I understand now they're going to be closing the dealer's room early tonight because they're going to move that air wall back in order to accommodate more people, which I'm assuming they're bringing in some more of the public, probably putting them closer to the front.
Probably, for the last, several years we've been here at the Renaissance downtown, but before that we were at north of town, and we filled it to capacity, and so we had to move down here, and we're filling it to capacity, and so, which is a great thing to see at a Magic convention, but yeah, they're going to blow out that wall out here, and we're going to have even more people. So the room as it stands, I think, can have somewhere between 1,000 and 1,200 people, something like that. And so when they blow it out, we'll be more like 1,200 to 1,500 maybe. We'll see.
Yeah, because they were telling me that they were close to 1,000 registrants here, and which is down from earlier years, pre-COVID, when they were getting like 1,200 people here.
Right, yeah. So, but, it feels like we're on the other side of things. People are back, and, some people are masking, some aren't. That's fine. But it's just so good to be back together after all the virtual stuff that we did.
That's very well put. Exactly right.
Yeah.
I think everyone's anxious to get back together and put everything behind us as soon as we can.
Right.
But with caution.
Right, absolutely, with caution. And, for a lot of folks who, there are a lot of workers that come to this convention, and so, it's,
Like David Williamson just hanging out. He's not performing. He's just hanging out and teaching kids.
Yeah, he's just hanging out. I know David Blaine has swung by some years, and there are just so many people who just stop by because this is one of the conventions that they just get to come have fun at, but then they have to go back to their residency in Vegas or something like that. Right. So, but yeah, it's just a good time. And today we've got I'm telling you, I'm looking forward to Mark James's lecture, and then Paul Gertner is doing a show and lecture, and Paul always does such a fabulous job. So,
right.
Yeah, this is, if you've never been, look, Columbus in January, there's no other reason to come except for Magifest.
Yeah, you're not going to be boating or sunbathing.
Right. Nobody says, you know what, I want to go to the Midwest in the middle of winter. The only people crazy enough to do it would be magicians.
Right.
So.
And another reason why they keep us all in, because we don't want to go out,
Oh, no. I go out to Starbucks, and I'm not a small guy, Scott, but you have to go out to Starbucks, and I'm throwing on sweaters and jackets and top coats and hats.
Just go across the street.
Just go across the street. I mean, good grief. Yeah. So, and I live in Ohio, so but you should make the drive or the fly. So
it's well worth your time, certainly. This is always just a great convention. It's been a lot of fun so far, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the day and the rest of the convention. Absolutely. Matt, good seeing you. Thank you very much. I think you are being paged by your wife over there then, too.
Good to see you, Scott.
You as well.
Always.
So with the Magic Word Podcast, I was Matthew Neely. Scotty out. Well, before we begin and go into the dealer's room, I see people lining up already for the 10:30 lecture, so they get good seats. And my goodness, the time now is 10:02, and the queue has already started. But we run across people all the time who are longtime friends. I don't want to say old friends because they're not that old, but they're longtime friends. And someone I haven't seen in a long time who had stopped me, and that's Joe Cole, who lives in Omaha, Nebraska now. Hey, Joe, how are you?
Good, sir, and you?
Fantastic. It's good to see you. Thanks for stopping and showing me that picture. And that was from an award you had won at the SAM in New Orleans with Paul Curtelli and everybody. Explain what you just showed me.
Yes. So, 2001 SAM convention, did the competition there. So, yeah, that was a big deal because that was when Sean Frequoir was there.
Yeah.
And, he actually went overtime, was disqualified. And the decision was, do we share the first place? And I said, I'm just happy to have first place. So, I'll share it with Sean Frequoir.
Is that what happened?
That's what happened, yes.
Okay.
That was the 2001.
So you and Sean on the par level.
Yes, yeah. Sean knows me, but Sean's phenomenal. If I could share an award with Sean, that's pretty good.
That's a memory right there. Yeah.
Right.
Well, speaking of memories, what has been one of your memories so far that you've seen at this convention you've enjoyed?
It's just so great to see the people, Scott. I mean, the part of it is just seeing like David Williamson walking around, Lance Burton just hanging out with the guys. So it's just been phenomenal. And then all these young magicians that are just popping up out of nowhere just to see all their talents. It's just phenomenal. So I wish there was like little competitions like it is, for the SAM. I wish there was competitions with the kids around here, but yeah, it's just great to see all these youth.
They used to have that years ago, prior to when Andy and Josh had taken over, and they'd gone in a different direction with this, which is fine. I mean, because most traditional conventions will have the usual things with lecture shows and competitions and dealers and whatnot. They have decided not to have competitions here some time ago, which is fine. But they have encouraged then the youth to come, and they've got the scholarship program and everything else. So this is a great opportunity for young people to come. And I almost every time I talk to somebody throughout this whole weekend, it's been we've slipped that in somehow or another. So I'm trying to encourage more and more youth to come and have their parent or guardian to come with them to this thing, because you get your registration paid for free if you're under 18. And anyhow, go ahead.
Right. No, it's great to see the youth. And I wish I had a kid so I can sneak into those rooms, because there's so much going on for those kids with all their mentors and stuff like that. So, it's a great program that they're doing.
I meant to take a picture there yesterday. I saw Lance Burton in the youth room with just people gathered around his table, and he was showing them stuff, and I thought, how cool is that?
Right. No, it's great to see. But, no, it's been a good convention. So, I haven't been to one of these for 9 years, but I'm catching up with my old friends from St. Louis, because I used to be from St. Louis. And
Did you go to the Midwest Magic Jubilee back in the day?
Oh, yes. Yeah, Harry Monty, Harry and Trudy, but, all those guys. But, those are some great names. So I was just so glad that Harry's still with us. And
Bud Dietrich, remember, of course.
Right. So, some fun names, but, having a good time. So
well, good. Good seeing you, Joe. Thanks very much. Glad you stood. So the Magic Word Podcast. That was Joe Cole. Scotty out. Again, as we're still waiting for things to begin here shortly, that there are so many people that would that I could talk with, but I'm trying to limit this so this way it's not going to be like 12 hours every day content. But I do want to highlight some people, one of whom right now I'm speaking with is Jeff Hostetler, who was one of the chairmen for the past 80 years or so. I mean, he wasn't the chairman for that long. 29 years. Mm-hmm. And so I thought I would talk with him about some of the past Magifest then as well. So, Jeff, it's so good to see you.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here to see this new form of the convention.
Well, and that's exactly what I want to talk about. This has completely changed. I was just talking with a gentleman over there about the contest, and he had performed an SAM contest some years ago, and he said, I kind of regret that there are not any contests here now. And I said, well, obviously they've gone through some changes that Josh and Andy didn't go that direction, but the old time when they had the red coats, they did. So that's one of the changes. So anyhow, talk a little bit about the way it was.
Well, I think one of the things I would comment on that, I think it's a good way to look at it. When we ran the Magifest, we had the red coats, a team that did it, and they had
red coats. What that means?
They all wore red coats, and so they could identify us.
Yeah, like a blazer.
Right. And I would say we had a really good bunch of apples. Mm-hmm. And now
red apples.
Yeah, red apples. And now the new convention is really good oranges.
Uh-huh.
But you can't compare apples to oranges. They're really both quite well done.
Yeah.
We never lost money. We never made a lot. Mm-hmm. And then when we moved to Indiana, and then we broke up, and Josh and actually Tim Moore, who's involved,
yes, remember Tim. Mm-hmm.
Took it over, I was delighted. Mm-hmm. And let me tell you two reasons why. One, with Josh and Andy, they're into modern things that are happening. They're up to date. And they're bringing in the youth through the program for scholars, which is fantastic. And then yesterday we saw a show where they had a show with special needs kids presenting. It was just a gorgeous, gorgeous show. I cried almost because of honoring them, not patronizing, but honoring that worked a whole year to do this show.
Yeah.
So those kind of things, and bringing in crowds. I don't care how much money they make. It's not about that.
Right.
People are still interested in magic, so I am so pleased. 10 years they've run it now, and I just keep cheering them on. So.
Has it been 10 years? Oh, my goodness.
Yes.
That just seems like 3 or 4 years.
I know. So I'm delighted. I do miss the contest, but it's a different era.
Sure.
And I do miss the big stage headliner show, but we're past that, too. People don't like watching Big Illusions anymore, and they've seen it all, you know.
Right.
So they're going with changing times, and they're riding the crest of what's new and interesting. Mm-hmm. So,
and this is different from Magic Live.
Yes.
You've attended
yes,
Magic Live as well, and which that of course, it is in Las Vegas, and they do have the grand spectacle with some big illusions and everything then, too. But I feel that Stan, in a way, is kind of riding the crest, trying to do something every year, that reinventing,
Absolutely. It's those inventive people we need to cheer on.
That's true. So, because, like with the IBM, I mean, you're a past international president
That's right.
of the IBM, and but the convention there and the SAM and a few others have, the TOM and others are pretty much traditionally been the same.
That's right.
We need to change.
I agree with you. I couldn't agree more. I haven't been there. I am going to the IBM convention this summer yet.
In Pittsburgh.
Yep, because we can drive.
Yeah.
And so I love the IBM. I love organizations like that. But there is a need to reinvent themselves, and that's not happening quite as much as I would probably like.
Right. But it is exciting. There's a good verve here, or vibe, that with the dealer's room. You can hardly get in the dealer's room. They've just been packed.
I know.
3 deep. I mean, not just the first night, but every day.
Yeah, and the camaraderie. I've met old folks that I've known for years and years and years, and that's always good.
Yeah. I saw Tom Craven yesterday, chatted with him.
Tom's here.
Not today. He was here for like 6 hours.
Oh, my goodness.
Gary Morton had driven down with him, and then he went back.
He's getting up there in age, too.
He's, 92?
I don't know. I'm 83, so it's moving along fast.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate all you do with your podcast and things.
Thank you, Jeff.
I don't follow you very strongly, but I appreciate you going around and trying to do things. So.
Well, thank you very much. I'm just trying to record some history.
All right. Thank you.
So thank you for helping and sharing your viewpoint.
My
from history
privilege.
As well. So the Magic Word Podcast, that was Jeff Hostetler. Scotty out. We are here this afternoon. There's a lot of stuff going on. Paul Gertner's actually got his lecture and show that's going on right now, but I thought I'd just grab a few minutes with a FISM winner right here with Morten Christensen all the way from the Netherlands. Denmark. I'm so close. I'm neck of the woods up there from Denmark.
Yeah.
It's kind of like saying, I'm from Illinois. Well, that's close enough. We're in Ohio.
Yeah.
So, Morten, hey, good to see you.
Good to see you.
And I want to say officially on record, because I didn't get to talk with you in Quebec, congratulations, because after that experience was over, you were probably just hit up by everybody, and it was just a dazzling experience. Tell me something about how you felt.
I felt strange. I'd never been to FISM before, and my first FISM, and since I was a kid, 12 years old, I dreamed about just going to FISM and like maybe compete, but never imagined I would win. And then I'm there, and all this positive feedback, and I end up winning, which I still surprised, and I still can't handle the fact that I have a first place FISM trophy.
Yeah.
Like, it's so weird, but people have been very nice, and now I've been invited here to do my act and show stuff, which is great. I'm so flattered that I get to come from my small little country to the great big America to do some stuff.
Well, obviously you've been compared to Rick Merrill, who had also won, and
I heard.
From the standpoint of kind of like things are happening.
Yeah, the comedy character style. I can see that.
But you have you've been working comedy clubs then in Denmark for a long number of years, and not just doing magic, but doing comedy and then doing magic, I guess, in the context of the comedy clubs, right?
Yes, that's where I started. Because I don't think magic on its own is that interesting, so I never did magic for people, and then I began doing stand-up when I was 18, and that made sense to do tricks, and I had something extra to show people. So that's where I started, and I could also do my act, or some of it. It's because it all started with being very practical stand-up magic, and then when I made it more competition friendly, it was maybe more to full magicians and have some extra kickers and stuff. So that's my main thing, doing 40 minutes in a comedy club.
I can see obviously that you're comfortable with that because of the way that you handle a microphone all the time. Whenever that you're handling that, and when you're walking, it's like you already got a microphone over your ear. It's like you really don't need this.
I'm used to dragging the mic stand around with me. That's very natural to me and comfortable, and which is weird because like my FISM act is just with a headset, no mic stand. But I'd been practicing my whole act with a mic stand, so I can do it.
Yeah.
Because that's what they have at a comedy club. So in magic venues, they always have a headset because they're like, oh, you need your hands free. yeah, but the stand is good enough for me.
Right. It's kind of like whenever I'm doing strolling, wearing a suit coat, and I'm always used to pulling up my sleeve. And so sometimes whenever that I'm wearing a T-shirt, I feel like I'm pulling up my sleeves even though I'm not wearing sleeves, because you're so used to something, a particular habit, that happens all the time then like that. Now, as far as comedy clubs, is that still a thing? I mean, as far as in Denmark, I mean, it's not. There are still comedy clubs in the U.S., but there was a phase during the 80s when it was really big. Is it still big, or what's the climate like over there?
Comedy, like stand-up comedy, is like the biggest form of entertainment. But it's a small country. There's a few clubs, but it's not something you can live off. They don't pay that much unless you're really famous, and so it's mostly something I do, like open mics or get a spot and do whatever just to get out and practice, because it's a venue I like, and again, the country is small, so just getting the opportunities to perform are nice.
But do you see that perhaps as a springboard to something else in which you can get on a television show or something?
I try. Again, it's a small country, so it's difficult to see what's going on. When I got home from FISM, I was like, oh, maybe now this is going to be my break. But again, magic is not that big, and then so it's helped in the magic community, and I've gotten to travel a little bit, which is amazing. And again, I'm very relaxed. I'm just going to see where it takes me. It's amazing that I started doing card tricks, and then because I do card tricks, I can travel the world, and I'm very humbled and flattered about getting that opportunity. So.
Right. Now, building up to your FISM act, you had to obviously not only compete but win in order to place. So tell me a little bit about your journey.
So my act started when I was doing junior competitions around the age of 13, 14, 15. And my one trick segment from my FISM act is from when I was 14. So a lot of it was just put together over time, and then the main portion, I'd been working in comedy clubs for the last 5 years, and up to FISM the last 6 months before, I put it all together, put some new stuff in, made it an act that was an act, not just I made the script so it wasn't something that, because in comedy clubs usually it would feel maybe a little bit more organic and more like I was jazzing the tricks, but when I then made the act, it is scripted and was ready for FISM, and
But as far as winning, did you win at the local level with the club, or?
Oh yeah, I've done competitions. So I've won my local club competition the last 3 years. I've won the Danish championship since 2016. I've won this Scandinavian Nordic championship in 2018, and so I was building up to maybe now maybe I should do bigger international competitions. Right. So.
And when you actually got on that stage, you were probably looking around like, I can't believe that I'm here. I mean, when there were almost 2,000 people there.
Yeah, it was a strange moment, because I built up to it for a big portion of my life, because I wanted to go to FISM, and then especially the month up to it. So when I was on that stage, I was actually really ready, and I was ready for it, to give it my all, and I'm super happy with my performance. Everything worked, and I was in the moment. I was enjoying it because I was in front of a bunch of friends and peers that I just wanted to show good magic to. Again, I didn't expect to win. I just thought, I have something funny.
Sure. Speaking of that, and funny, because I know in Europe you have a lot of different cultures, different languages in different countries, and you're going to be traveling about, and you were doing this act in English. How many languages do you speak?
Danish and English.
Just the two?
Yeah.
Because I was wondering if this is something that you can also then go on the road and travel to other places and perform, on their television.
Yeah, it's... I'm considering learning my act in different languages, like French or Spanish, because that would just be interesting, getting to do it in other countries where English is maybe not the first language. And but I do it in English and Danish, and I've now done it in English, in a few different places where they speak English well.
Do you find the beats of your act to be different in Danish than it is in English? If you know what I mean.
Yeah. It hasn't changed that much, because at least I convince myself that I speak English well.
Why do you?
So actually my timing is pretty much the same, and because I then worked it in English, so I was ready. It feels sometimes weird to do it in Danish, because some of the moments are built in with the structure of English language. So it's more fun in English for me, actually.
It is really good, very funny, and a great act. I said, congratulations, that's great. Glad to see you here. I'm glad you did so well also,
Thanks.
selling out of everything that you had then too.
Yeah.
It was great. So are you going to be doing some other magic conventions in the U.S. so you got planned? Or
I don't know.
Nothing planned right now?
No, I haven't planned anything, but I've met people that have invited me to some stuff, and hopefully that pays off. And there's conventions I've always dreamed of going to that hopefully that's going to end up being something.
Is this one of your first conventions in the U.S.?
This is my first convention in the U.S. Because it's too far to travel with when I'm not booked. Yeah. So being here is amazing, and it was also a trip because I was 18 hours delayed.
Oh boy! So what do you think of this convention? This being not only your first, but also kind of an experience over here with the U.S. convention, as far as how friendly, or what do you think about that?
Oh, it's really nice, and I know Josh and Andy that put on the convention a little bit, and I did the session in London, so the atmosphere is pretty much the same, but. Yeah, the culture and people are different, and it's nice. I like it. I've been in America 2 times in Vegas before, and I like it here.
Are you coming to Magic Live?
I hope so.
Okay. We'll see. All right. Thank you very much, Morten. I appreciate that. It's over the Magic Word Podcast. That was FISM winner, Morten Christensen. This is Scotty out. So we have just finished the lecture with Paul Gertner, and speaking of close-up and having, Paul's got his own theater out in Boston. There's another fella who's got his own theater. It is in Colorado Springs and also does close-up and is excellent, and I am so thankful to have friends like him. You're such a good guy. It's Cosmo Solano. Here's Cosmo. Hey, man.
Hey, how are you?
Fantastic. Enjoying the convention?
Yeah, man. It's good to see you.
Good seeing you as well. You're looking good.
That's great. Oh, yeah. Well,
I'm sure after COVID that it's particularly great to kind of see everybody because they're coming back out into the theaters, I guess.
Man.
Right?
And it's so packed here. It's awesome. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's nice.
Now, tell us a little bit about what, for people who were obviously not here, to hear a little bit about what Paul's lecture was about.
He talked a lot about his experience on Fool Us, which was really cool. And then he went through the methodology of his thinking and everything from the way the props are made. I mean, he gave up everything. He wasn't holding back any secrets. It was awesome.
Because he had the different version of his Unshuffled. Did he explain that?
Yeah, which was really cool because I did not know that's what he did. I racked my brain going, how did
he fooled me.
Yeah, how did he get back? How did he get that far with it? And it was brilliant, and it was beautifully simple.
Yes.
That was very cool.
Some of the best
all the good stuff comes out that way, right?
Exactly.
Right. I mean, I've killed myself for 2 years on new stuff and then come back to some simple thing.
Well, that was what I was about to go to, actually, because of your theater being local and that you don't have a lot of other people come through. It's just the experience with Cosmo. Do you have change a lot of things, or do you have the same show? Because it seats, 20 people?
No, about 40.
40, okay. Yeah. So do you have the same show, or how often do you change stuff?
Well, it's funny. I've done the same show for the first until 6 months ago.
Okay.
So we were open before COVID 2.5 years, after COVID a year and a half. So, same show for whatever that comes out to, 4 years.
Right.
And we have repeat people every single show.
Really?
So, and we have some people who've been there more than 10 times.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
A pretty good number of people.
Yeah.
So they bring friends and whatever.
Right. Yeah.
But it's the
when
same
they want
show.
them to experience what they did.
Yeah. So I wrote that first show. It took me 3 months to write, 6 months to rehearse before I did it. And the new show, I didn't have that kind of time, but I put a lot of time into writing a second show because I owed it to my repeat people, my followers or whatever you want to call it. Because it's just great. So I don't think I changed the show much, but it evolves based on the experience every night. And next week I go, I'm going to change the timing, or I'm going to not do this part, I'm going to do that. And I go back. I was just talking to this, I think Mark Calabrese yesterday about this, and I said, I look back at an old video thinking I just wanted to see one thing, and I realized, holy cow, my show's changed over 3 years.
Right.
So I don't change it on purpose because I want to add new stuff. It's just that I'm trying to make it better all the time.
It evolves, it tightens, and everything, I'm sure.
And I learn there's a comedy spot right there, or there's a great misdirective spot right there, or whatever. And I'm constant. And my wife is amazing because she's got you'd think she was a magician. She's got a great critical eye on magic. she'll tell me, you need to change the timing on that next time.
And do you get some what?
What are you talking about? Yeah.
Would you get some good ideas also from the audience, and they say, "Oh man, I thought you were doing this," or they'll throw jokes out at you, or whatever?
Come up with lines that you realize work really well, thanks to the fact that they don't heckle me, but we have a great rapport. I egg them on, and they let me have it. I let them have it, and we have a blast.
Are you in the moment such that you are recognizing what's happening and try to react to some, I don't mean hecklers, but I mean people who might be speaking or talking, or like, where are you from? I mean, like a comedian would do. And, and so that's what I mean.
Yeah, a lot of ad-libbing, a lot of just playing off of them, and we have a blast. So we have so much fun in there every single night.
Yeah,
and when they're trying to be too polite, it's not as much fun.
Not as much.
So I'm like, bring it on,
Well, we are almost finished with the convention as well, and as we kind of start to wrap up, we still have the gala tonight and another lecture here yet to come this afternoon. David Gerard is going to be talking about marketing, which I'm excited to hear a little bit about, because his show last night was really crazy, but I want to, crazy good. I thought knocked it out of the park, but I'd like to know what your thoughts were of who was the highlight, or what did you really enjoy most about this convention?
I got to get the name right because I keep saying it wrong. Morton Christensen just made my week. He was so great and creative, and everybody's been great. This has been a great convention.
His was the only set of lecture notes I purchased.
Is that right? Yeah. Well, his was the only ones I bought, except for I love Paul. We've become friends since we both own theaters. I love, we talk a lot. So I had to buy Paul's. But other than that, I don't think I bought any other lecture notes. Did I? No, I haven't.
Well, apparently Morton didn't. He had run out, and as I was talking with him earlier, he just got a text saying, "Your notes just arrived."
So, nice. Well, a lot of people are going to be happy because I got lucky enough to get him. But he was my favorite. He was he is so creative and so not worried about staying within the box, kind of the magician's box. Oh, well, you do a pass here or you do that move there. It's just his own. He's just freely creating, and I love that. And I do a lot of that myself.
He comes from a different background, being in comedy, where he can improv a little bit. So he's learned that and comfortable with the comedy scene.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whereas magicians aren't. I think they're more structured sometimes.
Well, this brings up a great point you made me think of a minute ago. In the theater, I never worked scripted. So I studied theater. I did some comedy workshops, but mostly theater and stuff back in LA. And I don't work scripted. And I did that on purpose because when I worked scripted, my head would be so wrapped around trying to stay within the script that I couldn't think. And I would sometimes forget to do a trick and wonder why I'm saying this and that. Oh, whoops, I forgot that. and it was terrible. And so I just said no script, have fun, and that's what I did for years. That was my style.
Yeah.
But when I put together the theater and had to have a 2-hour close-up show, I had to script, and I have training in that way. I know how to write, and I know how to write scripts, but I just never did it.
Right.
So I put together a very tight script. I would time and everything. That's why 6 months of rehearsal, 3 months of writing, 6 months of rehearsal. I knew exactly when I picked up the cup and exactly what word came out or whatever I was doing. So that was fantastic. But now that I'm natural and comfortable, it's a beautiful thing to be able to go, I've got a solid script, but I can deviate anytime I want.
And come back to it.
And the comedy clubs and the improv stuff over the years, it's just so beautifully come together.
Right. Well, that was why I was asking about being focused and in the moment from the standpoint of, like, you are not so focused on your next line, your next sentence, as you are of what is it that somebody says.
I can go out into left field so far.
Because you know how to come back and where to come back to.
Get right back to it, and it all feels like... People think I've scripted every line I say to them sometimes because it works out so nicely, but it's just a matter of experience and stuff.
Oh, sure, because you're going to hear some of the same things, and you can say something as a, quote, ad-lib.
But my wife will go, oh, I thought it was over. Because that guy was saying something you've never heard before, and then all of a sudden it just turns into a beautiful moment. So we have that every week, and it's just...
So where can people go to get tickets and find more information?
Just cosmosmagictheater.com.
That's COSMO.
COSMO, yeah. Cosmos Magic Theater.
Okay. In Colorado Springs. And how many nights a week?
We're doing 2 nights, probably going to add one. We're selling out all the time. So we're most likely, now that when I come back from this, we're going to start looking at restructuring our...
Thursday, Friday, Saturdays?
Friday and Saturday nights right now. It'll probably be Thursdays.
Okay, I didn't know if you're going to add Sunday afternoon. Because it's really more for adults, not children.
Yeah, we do one kid show every Saturday.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I love kids shows. I just, when you're doing what close-up magicians do, you don't do kid shows anymore for a long time. Right. But I really have fun with them, so we tried a few, and my wife loves them, and I love them. So we have a blast every Saturday afternoon, but my focus is the close-up stuff, and the adult stuff.
Have you been to this convention, by the way, before? We'll
Several times.
And so, you've never lectured here or done anything? I mean,
no.
Okay.
No.
I think you're one of these unsung people that's kind of like an underground person that a lot of people don't know here.
I keep it quiet. I get asked to lecture all the time, and I go, yeah, let's do it. 3 years later, I go, oh yeah, I forgot. I think I was supposed to lecture for Penguin a long time ago, and Tim Trono or whoever, I'll tell him, oh, so I'm sorry, and then I think they just think I'm too cool, but I don't. I'm just very scatterbrained and busy. My main focus is the audience. That's what I love, and that's what it's about. Not that I don't love this stuff, and I wish I had more time.
I hope more people get to know more about you, because I think you're really something. You're a very creative guy and very good magician. So
that's nice.
I hope they all come see your show, and I'm looking forward to the next time in the springs. I'll come in and go see it.
Guests.
Thank you very much. Right. So the Magic Word Podcast. Thanks. That was Cosmo Solano. Scotty out. As we're kind of going around and just getting ready for the next thing, which is going to be David Gerard talking about marketing lecture, I thought I would talk with my second favorite podcaster. First, there's me. I love me. Next is Eric Tate. Eric.
Hey, Scott. How you doing?
Fantastic. Good to see you again.
Good to see you, too.
And so you've been enjoying the convention so far, obviously. I see you at the table working in session with everybody all weekend here.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I love doing that. People show me, insane stuff, and it's really fun.
Well, that's the thing. So I think you'd be teaching other people, so they've been teaching you stuff.
Oh, I mean, I'll show people stuff, and I'll talk to anyone. So last night, they've got a great youth program here, and there's some really great kids here. And so I'm very interested in, encouraging kids to, learn harder stuff and also to get into competition. And last night I think I spent 3-4 hours with the youth, just jamming, showing them card tricks, talking to them about anything they wanted. And there's some really talented kids here, which was a lot of fun. I was expecting to have to get pretty simple stuff and hey, let's talk about this. And they were no, show me that weird double lift, or show me the insane how do you do that thing in your FISM act? And I was yeah, let's get into it.
That. Wow.
Yeah, so it
wasn't like a cross-cut force or something. They really had
I started with a cross-cut force, and by the end of it, we were talking about negative stripper work and snap deals and crazy spinal lift doubles and whatever.
And they were all with you.
Oh yeah, it was very irritating because they were hey, how do you do that double that you're doing? And I was oh, it's just this. It's from this DVD Tekken that's really good. And one of them went, oh, you do this, and he did it. And I was it took me 6 weeks to learn that. No, they're really talented young magicians. So.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
So that's probably been about the best thing that you've seen here, just kind of the other people. I guess,
yeah, I've seen some really cool stuff, but I've been hanging out. Kyle Purnell and I have been friends for years, and I always love seeing the great stuff that Kyle has. It was really fun to watch Kyle lecture, and this morning watch Kyle's appearance on Fool Us, which was so cool. He performed Lightyear on Fool Us. That was really awesome.
Yeah.
And then just see all of my friends, which is good. Yeah.
But unfortunately, he didn't fool them.
I think he fooled Allison Hannigan, and to me, that's the more important part of the show.
That's right. When I was talking with him, he said, well, I kind of fooled half of them.
Yeah.
But it's Penn and Tutor, not Penn or Teller,
yes.
I guess, I love Kyle as well. I had chatted with him briefly, and then I talked with him a little bit more at length. That'll have in a future episode, coming up with him then as well. As far as some other people that you have seen, who has really been a highlight for you? I mean, they've all been good, but somebody.
I really enjoy Mark James. I've always enjoyed watching Mark James perform. I mean, I don't think there's a more consummate, worker around. He's so good. His show is polished to within an inch of his life, and it's so varied too. You don't see many people, let alone people who don't bill themselves as jugglers, do the 9-box stack with cigar boxes, and he does it really well. So I really enjoyed him. There's so much stuff here.
I love David Gerard, Peter Turner.
There's one of the things I saw earlier. There's a young man named Ryan. As we stand here, he's over at a table. He's just standing up. He was doing some insane Pharaoh work that you've got to check out. Where he's doing triple, every thirds, like groups of 3, doubles, single. It was wild. It was really, really good. There is a lot of stuff here, and I've really enjoyed just. The other one, I can't believe I didn't even think of this. Morton Christensen.
Yes.
Phenomenal lecture. Really fun hanging out with him and sessioning. It was a good time.
Yeah, his lecture notes were sold out, but when I was talking to him a while ago, he just got a text saying, hey, they just came in.
Yeah.
So, so he's got them available now.
Yeah, I guess he had like a box that he shipped 2 weeks ahead of time, and it like got lost in the mail, but finding out that it's here is awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, I told him, he says, I'm going to be performing tonight. I said, well, you need to announce during the show, hey, my lecture notes just arrived, anybody's interested.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good time.
Yeah, now, the last few years, of course, they've limited this to 500, and this is the first year they've opened it up, and it's kind of gotten back to 1,000 people, and so it's hard to kind of get around and see everybody and everything, so by staying at one table, you kind of let the world revolve around you.
I really just like to hang out with anyone who wants to come by and chat. Sometimes I just like see a group of people with a deck of cards and sitting around, and I sit down at the table, and if they want to talk to me or whatever, like that's totally fine. But I like hanging out and doing card tricks with people and showing. Actually, like just before you came up, there was a guy who walked up and was like, "Can I show you a move?" And he showed me kind of an interesting. It was almost like a diagonal palm shift, second from the bottom, which was like kind of a fascinating idea. Don't know what he's doing with it, but it was just like a neat kind of move. It's just lots of fun stuff.
I have a completely unrelated question having to do with being a FISM winner, as you are. After you have won that, do they invite you to come to the next FISM to be a performer or lecturer, or is that something you have to apply for? Are you going to be going to Italy, I guess, ultimately, is what I'm asking you?
I have no idea. They announced that the next FISM would be in Italy at the last FISM, and I have no idea. Your guess is as good as mine.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just didn't know that as part of the prize they might say, well, we're going to have you also do such and such.
There is no prize money. There is no prize thing. There's
just the trophy.
There's the trophy and the glory, and that's it.
Yeah. Which is enough in itself.
Yeah.
Have you been able to parlay that into some good shows or good publicity on television or anything, or newspaper?
Right after I got back, the Columbus Dispatch wrote a very nice article about me. There's another magazine here locally called 614 Magazine that wrote a very nice article about me, and the local news talked to me. The Penguin Magic Monthly had a nice little interview, but I kind of I don't know if this is intentional or not, but I laid low for the last 6 months. I had a lot of work at Penguin. I had a lot of my own stuff to do. I had been on the road for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks preparing for that. So I was very interested in sleeping in my own bed at night. I've got 2 wonderful dogs and a fantastic partner, and I really enjoyed the last 6 months with them. Magifest is actually the first time that I've been around a large group of magicians since I became a FISM winner. And so I've been overwhelmed with all of the really kind and wonderful words and people wanting a picture with me and wanting to shake my hand and telling me nice things, and it's extremely humbling and overwhelming. But this is the first time. I've been doing like shows at theaters like Mystique. I was just at House of Cards, had a lot of fun doing stuff for normal people.
Right.
Yeah.
And speaking of Penguin, starting to wrap up over here, what's new that Penguin's doing, or what's coming out, and what's happening, or something that you could tip that people ought to pay attention to? Something new. It's like, hey, this is really cool. I mean, you preview things all the time, new things, but they're not. They're so-so. Some are better than others. I just wonder for something that kind of sticks out. It's like, this is the latest, Scott. You really got to see this or get one of these things.
Right now, as we're talking, the Penguin Magic Awards were just the winners were just announced, and Laced Up won Trick of the Year, hands down. The voting wasn't even close.
Laced Up
by Donovan Mount. That's the trick with the shoelace where you put the ring on the shoe and then the bow moves down and you untie it the wrong end and then retie it and go back up. That thing is incredible. It's very, very cool. Everyone should check it out. I think it has a home in anyone's repertoire. At Penguin, we're in the middle of remodeling the studio again, which is very exciting because that'll allow us to do some really cool stuff with live shows. And there's some surprises for people who've been there before that I don't want to quite tip yet. But we've got a really great slate of products that are ready for the next year. There's some stuff that I just can't tell you about yet.
Do they plan to release those like incrementally, not all at one time, I assume?
We release stuff all throughout the year. So I think the only time where we release a lot of stuff at once is sort of like Christmas time, but I think that's pretty typical for all of the companies, and that's something that's not going to be a surprise to anyone. But all throughout the year, we've got some really great stuff lined up. products that I have been working on for the last few months are now just starting to hit the market. So like Wanda Blocks by Ian Bailey, I've been working on, and I'm super excited because I'm going to be in Blackpool in 2 weeks lecturing and performing, and I'll get to see Ian Bailey and we'll get to jam on the trick that I produced with him. It's his trick, I just taught it. And then there's some school stuff that like Defaced from Martin Bracelas just came out. It's a really awesome, totally gaffed deck. It's a multi-phase routine that everyone should check out. And then I'm just getting a new batch of products on my desk to start playing with and rolling through. So that's kind of it. So.
Wow, so I can see why you've kind of been underground for a while. You got some stuff to catch up on.
Doing a bunch of that stuff, and then I've got some new secret projects from with Penguin that I can't even begin to describe what it is, but it is, let me tell you, it is very, very exciting what's going to be coming out in the next few years. So, yeah.
You're whetting our appetite.
Yes,
Thank you, Eric.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
So with the Magic Word Podcast here at Magifest, that was Eric Tate from Penguin Magic. Scotty out. Before we start to wrap up this day, we still have just a couple of other events that are left before we close, but I ran into another young magician, Cody Clark. Hey there, Cody. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good. Having a great time at Magifest like always.
Tell me, what have you enjoyed the most so far? Have you gotten a lot out of it?
Well, I've enjoyed the jamming, and not just the jamming, but this year I decided to bring the stage stuff I normally do. So there's been linking ring jamming, billiard ball jamming, and I've also enjoyed, especially today's slate of lectures, like that Paul Gertner lecture about getting on Full Us and what works and what doesn't. Yeah. That's a goal of mine, so it was helpful to get an insider's perspective on that.
Good point. Yeah, exactly.
And the Mark James lecture on show flow, I recognized a lot of similarities between his and Dan Harlan's lessons on that. So I think that's good, especially for my friend Sid. This is his first Magifest, but he's also part of the Louisville SAM Assembly. So I enjoyed seeing him get a lot out of it, given that he's wanting to do bigger shows like that.
Right. I think both those were really good. It had a lot to offer. In fact, I had spoken then with Mark James at length that will be broadcast in the future. It will be a more lengthy episode in which he goes into some more detail about some of that stuff that he was talking about then as well, plus some of the other interests that he has in movies, etc., like that as well. Now, you were telling me then, Cody, also just a few moments ago about something that you were helping the youth with then as well.
Yeah, I help run the Society of Young Magicians social media pages. We've got an Insta, and we've really been wanting to start a TikTok, but it's been hard to get content. So I thought, while I'm here, why not see the young people doing magic, and once they sign the release forms and all that, of course, get them to film some TikTok content for me. And it's been going well, and our TikTok should be able to start really en masse within a week or two.
Now, John Cirk was telling me earlier about the community, I guess, on the SAM webpage, in which you can get in there. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, that's a best perk of the SAM and SYM. The best hidden gem is that it's not just the assemblies, but there's virtual assemblies like V1.1, 1.2, 1.3. There's that internet forum that's within the SAM website portal. And for the young magicians, there's that virtual Zoom assembly that is actually one of the more active assemblies, since there's still lots of parts of the country that don't have an SYM assembly yet.
So as far as some of the TikTok videos that the kids would record or anybody would record, can they put them on that community board as well?
Actually, that would be a good way to get them to me. If they're under 18, we will need to send them a release form, and we can do that via Google Docs. If you're an adult, you just send it to me, about a minute in length. You can either share a magic trick or talk about what it's like to be a young magician, or if you're an alumni, what you loved about the SYM and what you still like about the SAM.
Right. Now, are they also then performing just a quick trick, I guess? Or?
Yeah, quick tricks or quick advice tips. Since I don't want it to just be tricks, I also want kid-friendly theory on there, too.
Yeah, here are the top 3 things that I would recommend, that you need to do this, and this.
Exactly. Yeah. Kind of like how the Penguin podcast has their Desert Island Magic books, where it's like quick 1, 2, 3.
Right. Yep, I understand what you're saying over there. Have you been involved much with the youth group over here, that the Magifest that Josh and Andy put together?
Well, I gave them a 10-minute talk yesterday on the unfair advantage. That's the big concept I run my magic career by, which is finding the one or two things that your magic is about so that you can make creative and business decisions. For me, it's my autism advocacy, since I do a lot of school assemblies and library shows about what it's like to be autistic. And then for little kids, I'm Conductor Cody, a train-themed character. So those are the two things my magic's about. I was telling the kids, if you find those one or two things for you, you spend in the dealer's room only as much as you need to spend, because you got a criteria going in when seeing these routines. And same with the lectures, it helps you filter out information.
Right. That's very good advice. I think that the kids really need to hear that. It's like, don't go in and buy everything. I mean, when you're young and you're getting involved in magic, a lot of times we think, okay, this trick is going to make me. This is the holy grail. But it's not. It's not a trick that's going to make you. It's awareness of your character that's going to make you. So well said. That's exactly right. So it has been a great convention. Where do you live, actually? Where's your...
Louisville, Kentucky. Okay. That is the land of Lance, land of Mac, land of J&B with Brent Braun Magic Shop. It's a low-key hopping magic scene.
Yeah. It's a pretty big club there, as I recall, then, too. Don't you have like 30, 40 members in your club?
30, 40 that actively show up, and there's about 100 that pay the dues every year.
Yeah. Because I know yesterday when Lance was talking, or was it today? I guess it was last evening, a lot of people were hooping and hollering from the audience who were apparently part of his Louisville club.
I was one of them. And many people were like, we know that's Cody's voice.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm glad you're enjoying the convention. And how many of these have you been attending, Magifest in particular?
I'd say this is my 7th. I've only been during the Josh J ones, but that's a testament to his youth scholarship program.
Yeah.
Is that... there's a good amount of young magicians. There used to be no requirements. Now I think they have to do a charity show.
Correct.
But they at least get the conference for free. Then I think there's a secondary program where the people who are financially disadvantaged, that you can do a more written application and get airfare, get hotel funded.
Yep.
And they essentially don't want any barriers to young magicians getting seriously into magic.
Yep. No, that's good that they're trying to eliminate those barriers, because a lot of times I think that's just one of the reasons that people are an advocate for magic being, if you will, exposed on YouTube, because they're saying that, hey, it's easier than you think. But some people who are kids are trying to get in and thinking, oh, man, I can't do it. But then they learn from YouTube how to do it. It's like, oh, it's not as hard as I thought it was. So there's good and bad about that.
Yeah, I like the rule of thumb that YouTube's like the modern-day library, that if it's what you would find in a Section 793.8 book, as in like your Nick Einhorn book or your Mark Wilson book, then go ahead, put that on YouTube for that reason. But beyond that, if we're something to buy in the dealer room, that's where I'm like, no way.
Exactly, because that's proprietary and something that someone had created, and they're making money off of that you shouldn't give away something that's not yours to give.
Exactly. But at the same time, it's good to recognize YouTube's the modern library. My brother's getting into guitar, and he's learning basic chords through the YouTube.
Right.
So why can't you learn basic chord methodology through that?
Right, exactly. Well, Cody, thanks very much. Good to talk with you.
It is a pleasure, and I love the podcast.
Thank you. I appreciate you being a fan. Thanks for listening. Appreciate it. So the Magic Word Podcast. That's Cody Clark. Scotty out. We just wrapped up the show, but I did want to talk with one of the dealers. I was in the dealers area from time to time, but really didn't get a chance to talk so much about just the ambiance and everything, because here I've got with me right now Don Purcell, who is the one who is kind of the heir who bought all of H&R Magic books. So but the name of your company is Purcell?
Don's Magic and Books.
Don's Magic and Books.
Yes.
And so how was this convention for you from a dealer standpoint
here? Pretty incredible.
Yeah.
This is my 3rd time here, and double the attendance basically for me resulted in double the sales. And I just got to meet so many people that have bought from me in the past. I think I met about 40 people here that I haven't, people that have bought from me that I didn't know who they were. Now I got to meet them. It's been great.
You recognize their name, and then they finally got to meet you, put a face to it.
Yeah, or they come up and they go, this is my name, and they turn their name tag around. I'm like, oh, I know you. So, it's been very great. I am losing my voice, as you can hear.
I was about to say that your voice is gone because you've been talking probably the whole weekend.
I'll talk like Barry White from now on. Thank you very much. Yeah.
How many dealers were there altogether? Like about 30? Or?
I think there's 30 or 35, because they added 5 more dealers this year than they've had in the past.
Well, it's because they had a few more people, obviously, this year, too.
And thinner aisles, so it was crazy in there. It was crazy. When they opened those doors and the first 1,000 people came in, It was a madhouse.
But it was pretty much the same thing the rest of the whole week because it's not a big area. So
Right.
even with a few people in there, it seemed like it was busy and crowded.
Yes, it was busy the whole time for us. From when they opened in the morning till we closed at night, there was really no break. But that's okay.
What is the big book this year? What was it that you found was a bestseller for you?
For me, Mike Caveney's Sawing is wonderful. If you haven't seen it,
Sawing is beautiful.
Yeah, for the history of sawing in half. The other one for me comes out of Canada. There's a magazine called The Hermit that's put out by Scott Baird, and he took the whole first year of the magazine, put it out in 2 hardcovers, and I was the first one to have them, and I sold out of them.
Yeah,
it's an amazing magazine. He writes it, illustrates it, puts it together, and it's really cool. So I have to order more now.
What kind of is it? Kind of like Apocalypse or Richard's Almanac kind of
exactly,
a thing,
just like that. He gets contributions from people all over the world. He writes them up, photographs it, does the diagrams.
Wow.
Close up, mentalism. It's a great magazine.
So you'll be getting that back in stock eventually, and they can order that from you?
Yeah, I have more in order now, and hopefully they'll be there when I get back to Minnesota.
And so where can they get in touch with you?
Yep, if you go to donsmagicandbooks.com, that's me.
Okay.
You can find me on Facebook or just on the internet.
Well,
Sure.
I wanted to get your perspective because a lot of times when I talk to a dealer saying how was the convention, they have a completely different perspective because they don't see any of the lectures or the shows or anything. You did finally get to see this evening show.
Yeah, I've seen each of the evening shows, like Peter Turner.
Yeah.
First time I've ever seen him. Incredible.
Yeah.
And stuff. And tonight, that was a killer show. It was amazing. I just sit there with my jaw open. Yeah, it is good to be able to see stuff.
There were 6 FISM winners in the show tonight.
I know. And every one of them deserving of it. It was great.
Yeah.
It was very cool.
Yes. Who was it? Anybody stuck out for you in particular?
I like Morton Christensen because of his dry, just simple sense of humor, no extravagant setting or decoration, just pure magic that just you keep beating yourself in the head like, how did that happen? How did that happen?
He got just not immediate standing ovation, but everybody was just yelling also. They couldn't get enough of it.
It just, the stuff he came up with, sometimes I just wonder, how mental are these guys that's what they can come up with?
Yeah.
But it's awesome watching him because he's such a cool guy, too. He came and stopped by the booth and talked for a bit.
He's a nice, regular guy. Yeah, I got a chance to chat with him on the podcast there as well. So, Don, thank you very much. Good talking to you
Thanks
as well.
for having me. We'll see you at TAOM.
I'll be there, and so will you.
Yeah.
And so for the dealer's room area, that was Don Purcell, Scotty out. Well, as we mentioned, the evening show is over then right now. But I do have with me right now Charles Green III. We started off this morning talking with him, and so we're finishing up the evening and to kind of give a recap over here of this. Were you at Schutt's lecture by chance?
I was not at Schutt's lecture.
Okay, that's all right. I had heard that it was excellent, that he was giving tips on his performance at FISM and how to do his spoon and coins and some of the work, and that he was, the way people were describing it to me, they couldn't recreate it. They said it was impossible. It just was great.
Well, I can understand that. I mean, seeing the act, and I've seen it twice. I saw it up at FISM, I saw it here, and it's obviously a thing of personality, and the props are so different, and the handling must be so very different and radical that if you're just coming in from the ground level, it's got to blow your mind. Just how could I possibly do this?
Well, it's not just the individual parts of it, but then it was routining of how the one thing, it's on the back of the hand or behind the fingers, or this finger, not that one, or a palm or whatever. So, and putting that together so it's so smooth. Well, that's why he's a FISM winner.
That's exactly right.
So that brings us really to the gala show tonight that was hosted by Lucy Darling, which was, as always...
She's always fantastic. Always fantastic.
Handles the crowd very well, very good at improv as well, and started off then with... we had like 6 different FISM winners, and Ruben Villagrand was the first one up.
Right.
Talk a little about
the comedian?
Yep. No, not the comedian. He was the guy with the ties.
Okay, yeah, well, yes. I mean, I can see
was
that
funny.
some comedy,
Okay,
there's humor in there,
That's
not
right.
direct comedy.
So,
but very inventive and very, once again, very different. I mean, there's a reason why these guys are FISM winners, and generally is because they are so different, so out of the box. It's about how they routine things. So you think, I mean, I'll just not pick apart, but select one thing, where Jim Steinmeier's like the moving knot, essentially, but he's got an electrical cord, and everything makes sense. And that's the thing about great magic is it makes sense with the props that you're using, and the magic is a part and integral to what's happening, not just, here's a rope, and I'm going to cut it in half for no reason.
Like a Pavel walking knot. In
Exactly.
Which was kind of, had the jukebox, or a radio or something.
A little radio with music that was attached to that, so that provided the source. The lights went out, or fizzing around. He's checking the cord. The things with the ties, and ties flicking around.
Ties very funny.
He doesn't have any tie on, then he does.
And then it came out his sleeve.
And then came out his sleeve
and then
to start
across.
with.
Yeah. Wonderful. And then followed by that with Eric Tate, who came in third, doing a great job with his incredible 3-card Monty.
Yes, Eric is always fantastic. He's always dashing on.
Oh, yeah.
On stage, and he comes across, and it's always interesting. Being a close-up magician, having it's impressive to have a personality that can extend from a table, being seated, all the way into the audience, and people pick up on his personality. They like his style. He's kind of sharp, but without an edge, so to speak. So it's you're with him. You're with him, and. He's just a great performer, great entertainer. Using 2 people who are on there, he treats them well and brings them into the magic and makes them part of the experience.
Doesn't make them feel like they're props.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, there's a reason why they're there, and they are essential to experiencing the magic.
Right, the way he interacted with them.
Yeah.
Next was, I think, certainly a highlight, and that was the real comedy I thought you were referring to, and that's Morten Christensen from Denmark, and he brought the house up. I mean, everybody just immediately came to the feet after his show.
Yeah. Well, once again, it's something that, there are these parts, and they're all in different orders, and, they're very, very logical, and the thing, I can't remember, and the cards, I had them in the box, and you're going back. It's kind of like, we have the basic scenarios in our head of, the film that goes backwards and sometimes going forward, where it's like Groundhog Day.
Or Memento.
Or Memento, that was the film, yes. And so, we have these thoughts in our head, and he actuates them with magic in a way we don't see.
Yeah.
And it's funny, and it's, it's all together. And he was great. I did not see him in FISM in Quebec.
Oh, you didn't?
So, no.
Okay.
So it was such a pleasure to see him here, and he definitely got everyone excited and on their feet.
Yeah, and even at the end, whenever everyone was coming back out for a bow, he just got an extra cheer.
Right.
From everybody, too. Next, then, was Shoot Ogawa. Wasn't it? I believe Shoot was before Paul Gertner, I believe.
Yes. Well, we'll go out of order. We'll go in any order. Yeah.
So Shoot Ogawa, let's say. So Shoot was doing his FISM act, too.
His FISM act.
Which we just talked about a moment ago.
Right. And, always classy. He looks great. I love hearing him talk to the audience, and, he pulls you in as well. Once again, it's that thing of, doing close-up magic on a stage.
For 1,000 people.
For 1,000 people.
Yeah.
And even with screens, but you're still right there, and he's got this great personality, this great smile.
Yeah.
It kind of gives you this, in a way, a wink, to make sure you're still with him and pulling everyone in.
And then Paul Gertner, who had done his 2 things that he's known for, of course, Unshuffled.
Yes.
You've probably done several times at trade shows, haven't you?
Thousands, yes.
And that is just great. And then he pulled out the one saying, okay, well, here's the one that fooled Penn and Teller.
Right.
This is my trick that you all know, but here's what, and then he fooled the rest of us with that, which he'd explained this afternoon, I guess, in the lecture.
Well, Paul is a master magician. I mean, he's got such creativity. He works really, really hard. He's been doing this for so long. I mean, I would dare say Paul is a living legend for many different reasons.
Right. And then he finished with his classic cups and balls with the ball bearings.
Yes. Yeah.
Which he's known for.
Yeah, we used to live
Balls of Steel.
Balls of Steel. I used to live in Pittsburgh, and in Pittsburgh they used
Steel
to
City.
make steel, and that's what he is known for.
And then wrapping up the show was Jenmu Park.
Oh man, he's so great. And here's for me the funny thing. I was at Quebec, but did not see him perform, and didn't see him perform on the final show up there. And I was so interested. I was watching videos of him afterwards and looking at all the winners. I was blown away just by watching him on video, and then watched several other of his videos. And I was so stoked to see him here live. And what I like about him is it seems like everything is always different. This was not his FISM act. It's not an act that I saw earlier on YouTube that he's done before. But it's still got a certain style, and it's got a certain beat, and it's got a certain rhythm. He's using music, and he's really cool. And I mean, I will say he reminds me of Topaz.
I thought the same thing. It's funny you mentioned that.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's something, just like the timing and the bells and the beats and like the sticks and the bam and the yeah. So he's young. Mm-hmm. And I can't wait to see what else he will do.
He's not going to stop here. You can tell that he's got a great future, just like Topaz. Yeah.
Right. It's great to be world champion. And I imagine. I don't know. No idea. Yeah. But I can't wait to see what else he brings to the table and to see him perform every single time.
Yep. So overall, this was a great convention, a lot of fun, and good catching up with you. I've been got to spend a lot of time with you finally.
This was awesome. Yeah. I mean, that's what I love about conventions is really the friendships that we get to continue on and on and on.
Right. And then as well, getting to see and learn some great magic as well. And then the dealer's room was full. It was packed. It was a lot of fun.
Yes.
And all the shows were just top-notch. I think Josh and Andy did just an over-the-top job again, pulling this all together for 1,000 registrants. It was great.
Right, and I think, one of the great things about Magifest, maybe in comparison to some others, is it's a community that they have nurtured to grow and to broaden magic. So the youth program is really, really strong here.
Yeah.
And they take the kids aside and they put them in a safe space where they are taught by the experts, such as Carissa, such as David, such as Josh. Other people come in. So the kids get to see the best of the best in magic.
Right.
And can be really inspired. Lance comes in there, of course, who's another living legend. And that is essential to maintaining and growing the art of magic. Because you got to start somewhere, and you can't start with people who are 30 and 40. You need fresh ideas, new visions, energy.
Yes, and energy. That's exactly right. Well, they certainly feel the energy here, and I think a lot of people are already signing up for next year's convention then as well. So you can tell by all these reports that if you haven't been here, this is genuinely a great one that you should be coming to attend next year. So
it is great. I can't wait to come. I mean, I probably won't be, coming back as a performer, but I will be here as a participant because it's just a great convention.
Yep, it is. Charles, thanks very much again.
Thanks, Scott.
Always good chatting with you. And as I said to the rest of the listeners, we got to talk with Charles at breakfast a little bit, and so this way we get to wrap up the end of the day as well. So it's good to start and finish with you and see your smile.
What a great deal.
So for the Magic Word Podcast, that was Charles Green III from the Magifest in Columbus, Ohio. That's a wrap for our 2023 Magifest. Thank you, guys, and we'll see you here next year. We've got another convention coming up here before long. My next one's going to be the Winter Carnival, but that's not until March the 9th through the 11th, so you might want to think about registering for that one, and I will see you there. This is Scotty out.